struggling with depression. And of course, eventually, whatever transpired, it's just so unfortunate. Maybe if you could share some real life examples, if you know of any.
There's many real life examples. Maybe I can personalize it myself. The reason why we started this thing as Masakanya was that we experienced that we're suffering from this thing called depression, which at the time, 5 years ago, nobody was talking about that much. It wasn't popular. It was difficult to bring it to the identity of young people that this is a new phenomenon that's happening as a response to the times we live in, technology, culture, media, all these things that we're going through that are leading millions of young people in our society to experience these things that they don't know how to deal with. And it's leading to these negative behaviors that everybody complains about young people who don't participate, they don't communicate, they don't know how to respond to not getting things their way also as well. So I won't give you maybe a dramatic example of how one thing or one person that is affected badly, but this thing is something that's being affected by almost a majority of society today. And the biggest reason why people are going through this thing is that it's not being identified. It's not being identified amongst men, and it's not. And as a result, there are no measures that are being taken to fix this thing. So more than men, it's a social issue. It affects so many people, and not just in islands. Many people, if they look inside, they can see they can do some improvement, and they can gain some new habits that can lead for them to be better people.
And looking at Masakani and your work, your approach, how does Masakani, specifically address men's mental wellness within, the broader mandate? And are there any dedicated programs, initiatives?
Yes, there are a variety of programs. For years, we've been doing um, interactive seminars with regard to depression and mental health for all of society, always making them free annually. We've gone more now into doing monthly activations where we go to all aspects of society. So I think the best way that you can keep in touch with what's happening is to just get onto our social media platforms, Masakani Youth First, and from there we advertise everything that we're doing. But everything is centered around bringing, firstly, awareness in a way that people are going to understand it. If it's the youth, we bring the awareness through entertainment. If it's other sections of society, we try to bring the message in a way that they'll understand it. And then from there, we build together to create a way to solve it using scientifically proven methods, culture, religion, many methods, because there isn't just one way to solve this thing. So that's the most practical way that we find to assist in this thing is to, as frequently as possible, uh, go out there, remind people that this thing is happening, and give them a platform to bring about this change in a way that will suit them.
Mm. And then let's talk about, accessible resources maybe, as well as community engagement. How does then Masakane engage with local communities, traditional leaders, etc.?
That's very important because firstly, if we talk about community, then you have to accept those cultural demarcations that there are in society. Different people believe in different things. So when you cater to people, you have to meet them where they are. So when it comes to traditional leaders, what we would actually do in our seminars is that instead of bringing one message of how depression and mental wellness can be solved, we bring each sector of society to explain its best way and allow the person who's in the audience, who's having the experience, to choose one that will work for them. So that will be traditional people who believe who can trace it back to the ways that our culture today and the way that they've changed are leading to these feelings that we have inside. That will lead to organizations like South African Depression and Anxiety Group, who bring their experience in the field with dealing with this thing of many years of how they solve this thing. It will bring multiple organizations according that line just to bring a solution to this thing in a way that caters to the person who's receiving the message and in need of the help.
And how do you reach, remote areas and also maybe vulnerable communities who may not have access and have limited access to information and support?
We go straight to them. We go straight to them. If we just come to the conference on Saturday, you'll get an idea of the energy of our organization. It's very confrontational in a very positive and energetic way. We try just to engage with people. The most important thing about trying to assist someone or help someone improve is that you have to bring yourself down to their level or to set a precedent that everybody is the same and everybody is equal. So we don't really treat different people in different ways. We go straight to the people, to communities. Almost every community in Gauteng we've been there to visit, especially the ones where we stay. So if you just follow our social media platforms, you can get an idea of the way that we execute this help and the frequency that we do, and how we get across the message in many languages, cultures, communities, especially with young people, especially if you look at South Africa, if you are talking about young people, it's the underprivileged community. So we have to deal with that mostly more than anything.
And for more information, where do we go?
For more information, as mentioned earlier, you can go to our social media platforms at Masakani Youth First across all social media platforms. If you'd like to get more information about the seminar on Saturday, you can give our event organizer, Scons Makatine, email at m.youthfirst@gmail.com. Thank you.
That's Olani XO, Masakani representative. Thank you for making time and all the very best. Once again, Saturday, that's 19th July 2025. And it starts at 10 to 2:30 the day. That will be Men's Mental Wellness Day at Constitution Hill. It's now 1:30 and it's time for news. Thank you, Bertha. On the news headlines, the joint meeting of Parliament's Police and Justice and Constitutional Development Committees has decided to recommend an ad hoc committee as a means for the institution to look into issues of national security. A 6-year-old boy has been shot and killed in the Better Life informal settlement in Philippi East on the Cape Flats in a suspected house robbery. And the Israeli and the US-backed organization that's taken over food distribution in Gaza says there's been a chaotic crash at one of their sites with 20 people killed. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Plenty of things to unpack. Khotso Selo is our rugby correspondent. Khotso, I don't even know where to begin. An exhausting match. I did commentary on my own for 80 minutes. It felt like 3 hours. I thought the halfbacks were outstanding, particularly Grant Williams. Just pick out for me players that really stood out for you as well on the day.
I think I'm going to have to agree with you with the halfback pairing of Mani Lebok and Grant Williams. I think, they give the Springbok attack such zip. I think Grant Williams keeps the opposition, very busy around the fringes, and it sucks in the defense, and it allows for the backline to have a bit more space on the outside because they have to worry about the pillars in and around the breakdown points. And Mani Lebok's ability to pass left and right, kick with either foot, just gives him the ascendancy in terms of, variety when it comes to attack. And
Top Sport on SAFM.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
How would you encapsulate what you heard and thought in one word?
Indecisive. Now, he's saying we must wait for 6 months before he can tell us whether or not he thinks his Minister of Police is a crook or not. And I think this is unacceptable. But it's unacceptable because we have let it continue this way. And that's why people, even some, have been praising him for having a commission of inquiry. Why do you need a commission of inquiry? People in the security trust are supposed to be highly trustworthy. If they can't tell you the truth, why do you think that you should set up a commission of 3 judges at probably at huge cost for 6 months for them to tell you the truth?
Professor J.J. Tabane, who's the convener of the Frank Dialogue and editor of Leadership.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. You are listening to The Full Circle.
And coming up next, hashtag Made in SA. Don't. Let's go to the docs tonight. Is a South African-made film telling the story of an 8-year-old Bobo's coming of age amidst the final days of the Rhodesian Bush War. And the film is executive produced by media powerhouses Anile Mdoda, Frankie du Toit, and Trevor Noah. And we are going to be speaking to Frankie du Toit, broadcaster and executive producer. But let's just give you a taste of what you can expect.
The country we live in was called Rhodesia, but then some Africans said they found it first, and the Euros stole from them.
12 whites were murdered with a savage.
But then those Africans turned into terrorists, and that's how the war started. Yeah! I keep a lookout for terrorists.
Watch out! Big storm is coming. This better hold on.
Sorry about the mess. Can you have Jacob bring me my tea, please?
On our farm, we live with Sarah and Jacob. Tell me a story.
Once upon a time, everyone got along with everyone else. All of nature as one family.
Mom, am I African?
No, Baba.
Is it because we don't have brown skin?
There's still Rhodesia in my eyes. Bring on the bloodshed if that's what they want. I've got enough ammo for a world war.
Mum says she'll die for this land.
Who said you could come on this farm? This is my farm.
I believe her. Pew. Are we racist?
What? Certainly not.
What sort of people are we then?
Africans have eyes to see what the whites cannot see. These people know what we're doing, so you just better bloody watch yourself.
I'll never leave here. You'll never leave me.
This is how the story ends. All our lives, we are cursed with separation and loneliness and longing.
Don't. Let's go to the dogs tonight. Frankie du Toit joining us, broadcaster and executive producer. Good to have you on the show.
Hi, Bertha. Thank you for having me. It was wonderful listening to that clip, I must say. So good afternoon to you and all the listeners.
It is so gripping. And as for the title, maybe let's start right there.
Yeah, so the title is based on, because this is a memoir. The movie is based on a memoir by Alexandra Fuller. And this is her sort of life story. And the title comes from a quote. It's a very old quote, H.P. Herbert quote, "Don't let's go to the dogs tonight." So I think the full quote is, "Don't let's go to the dogs tonight because mother will be there." And you know that we often use the phrase, everything's gone to the dogs. So but the quote is sort of based on that. But it's the book title of her memoir is "Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight," and we've kept it like that for the movie.
And take us through the process director Amber Davids took in adapting the film from the memoir by Alexandra Fuller and your collaboration with her as the executive producer.
Yeah, so Amber, she was a huge fan of the memoir itself. And for everyone that's read the memoir, I know a lot of people have read the memoir. They will know how incredibly gripping the story is. This, like I said, it's Alexandra Fuller's real life. And then we've adapted the film from the memoir. Amber fell in love with Alexandra Fuller and with her book when the book came out many years ago. She acquired the rights for a screen adaptation of it. Spent a lot of time thinking about how to tell the story because, like I said, if you've read the book, you'll know that the story it's such a gripping tale, and we'll chat about why in a second. Spent a long time thinking about it and then started writing the screenplay. So Ember's decided she's going to write the screenplay herself. A lot of listeners might know her as a character. She was Miss Honey in Matilda, in the I think it's 1996 film Matilda. She was also in Schindler's List. She's an actress, and this is the first time that she stepped into a director's role. She also took her time with the specific, because she wanted the specific script, because she wanted to tell the story. And that's where we met her, when she said, hey, I'm reaching out to, it was through mutual friends of ours, to say, Rose and Oaks Media, can you guys help me put this thing together and produce it? Because she wanted to keep it authentic. She wanted to shoot it in Africa, in South Africa. She has got very strong ties here. Her family lives here still, her mom and dad. So she was very keen on shooting it in South Africa, and that's how sort of it all came together and we made the movie.
And what were some of the key challenges and, the triumphs, if I may ask?
Well, I think one of the big things, I don't know if people remember, in 2023 there was the big Screen Actors Guild strike, right, which halted a whole bunch of productions, American productions, and that affected us because she is a part of the Screen Actors Guild in America, so we had to get an exemption to continue shooting. As with all movies, I think budget is always the problem, right, especially if you're producing something in South Africa. So the budget was tight on this film. The biggest challenge for Embeth was to find the cast, because the story, Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight, from Alexandra's point of view, the story is told from her point of view as a child. She was a child in the Rhodesian transition out of the Bush War, and we needed to get an actress. And this kid, it's a child, right? So she's about 7 years old in the book. And we needed to find an actress that fits that character perfectly. And Embeth spent so much time doing auditions with children across the country that could firstly look like Bobo. Her nickname is Bobo in the book. And that was part of the key challenges, I think, to put together the right cast to make the story come to life. Everyone is going to meet Bobo on screen. Her name is Lexi Fenter. She's a very, very young actress. And she is absolutely stunning. She was incredible. And the way that Embeth directed her was just phenomenal. So, this whole movie is Embeth's vision, and Embeth really put her heart into directing this film, making sure every little detail is perfect,
I can imagine it must have been quite a challenge ensuring, that the authenticity is captured in the correct atmosphere and historical context, considering the sensitivity of how Rhodesia transitioned into Zimbabwe.
And that's what I think. That's why I can't wait for South Africans to see this film and for Africans to see this film, because what's beautiful about it is the story is told, like I said, Alexandra Fuller as a child when this transition happened. And what's beautiful about Bobo is all of us have dealt with the racial tensions, with transitions like this. It's not only a Zimbabwean story, it's also a South African story, farmers on farmland. This is something that I think resonates with everyone across Africa, the move from colonialization to independence. And what's beautiful about the story is Bobo is a child, so she doesn't understand what the political sort of atmosphere is around us. And the whole movie follows her trying to figure out, but why am I not allowed to play with my friends? Why is my mom like this? Alexandra's mom was also a very eccentric character, and she's played in the movie because Embeth, she's the actress. She's acting in the film as well, so she's acting, directing, and she's written the screenplay. And it's the most magical journey, because it's a journey into humanity. I think you see from Bobo's side as a child, we all get wrapped up in grown-up things.
Yes.
But when you look through the eyes of a child, we're all the same. Everything's magical,
Frankie du Toit, broadcaster, executive producer, and we're talking about Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight. Let's just take a small break and we'll be back.
2022 WAFCON finalists, the Atlas Lionesses are breathing with extra confidence to get to this year's semi-final, while the female Eagles want to steal the moment of joy from the Moroccans. This is the quarter-final showdown of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Morocco takes on Mali this Friday, 18 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, then on SABC 3 at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
at Bertha Charuma 1 on Twitter.
On X. Not that it changes anything. But anyway, I'm speaking to Frankie du Toit, broadcaster, executive producer. Let's go to the dogs. And it's a film about Bobo, who's 8, a white child growing up on a farm in Zimbabwe, grappling with grief, fractured family life, racial dynamics of a world at war. And this 8-year-old has to consume all this and understand, what exactly is happening. Because when you're 8, there's this innocence. But at the same time, you're seeing something that is happening right before your eyes. What then do you get to believe? Maybe, Frankie, if I may come come back to you.
Yes.
I'm just trying to picture an 8-year-old. You are so innocent. So you consume life from an innocent perspective. But at the same time, what you are actually witnessing is a contradiction of your innocence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what made Lexi so special. She has this wild, childlike nature, the same that Alexandra had when she was growing up. And you'll see on screen as well, she looks so innocent and she's grappling with these very grown-up ideals, very grown-up ideas. Philosophically things that we've created for ourselves as humans. And from her perspective, and we can all think back to when we were 8 years old. You just wanted to go play outside. You wanted to run around and do whatever you do and play with your friends. So the whole sort of narrative happens throughout this film from her perspective. And she's seeing her mom and she's seeing her dad and go off to the Bush War. And she's seeing the fight that's happening between black and white people on the farm. And, and she's trying to understand, but I don't understand why people are like this. Zikona Bali plays her helper in the house, Sarah. And she and Zikona have this super close bond, and she can't understand why. And that's why she asks her mom, you would have heard in the trailer, are we racist? Are we Africans? Because she's grappling with these very big ideas about identity. But ultimately, she's a child. She's just a child having to go through this very difficult thing,
And it's told in English and Shona. What do you hope for the impact of this movie to be as your premiere on the 25th of July?
Well, I think I'm very keen for everyone to see the film to, just as a perspective thing, to remind ourselves, because we're very quick, I think, even as South Africans, to bury a lot of this kind of stuff that we've been dealing with for a long time, And I think that firstly, it's a perspective that I don't think we've seen. I think it's going to change a whole bunch of people's lives. I think it's wonderful to see these characters on screen as Africans, right? And we're represented through the film. It's Alexandra's memoir, and I just think it's a wonderful story. I don't want to give anything away because I want people to go and watch it. But I think there are moments through the film, and when we've traveled the world with the film already at the premiere at Toronto Film Festival last year, and it was wonderful to sit in an auditorium of 3,000 people watching a film and gasping, going, oh, I can't believe that's happening, and then the next moment, tears streaming down everyone's faces because it's such a deeply touching film, So I really hope that everyone goes out to watch it. It opens in theaters on the 25th of July. We've got our premieres here. It's already opened in America and in London, so it's got a theatrical run throughout America as well. So, it's wonderful. I want everyone to go and watch it.
Frankie du Toit, broadcaster and executive producer, and we're talking about Don't. Let's Go to the Dogs tonight, a South African-made film telling a story of 8-year-old Bobo's coming of age amidst the final days of the Rhodesian Bush War. Frankie, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for making time.
Thank you, Bertha. I really appreciate it, and thank you to everyone.
And bye-bye for now.
They all believe they will be crowned champions, but gold medallions are reserved for the best of them all. It is the incredible clash of the 12 African women's national teams. Catch all the 24 matches of the Cap Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Join us for this year's fundraiser, Jazz for Young People concert at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July. This unique event, perfect for families, is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity and community spirit. So bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring the Parktown Girls Band, Tshwane School of Music, The Real DJ Zandi, Kutlotaro Jazz Band and many others. Tickets are just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12 via Quicket. Jazz for Young People is proudly brought to you by Standard Bank Joy of Jazz.
In partnership with SAFM, hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival, where music, culture and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens. That's from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sun L musician Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zingumalo, Trompies and more. More than music, share stories, spark change and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za, brought to you by the SAFM and SABC Group. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat, Imbaula. Coming up.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Well, coming up next, the University of Cape Town breaks new ground with the first South African Sign Language accessible website in higher education in a historic first for South African higher education. And the project is led by UCT's SA Sign Language interpreter, Michelle De Bruyn, and she joins us via Zoom with interpreter as well, Beryl Botha, to sign, the conversation that we shall share with you on our social media platform. Michelle is on the other side on Zoom as South African Sign Language interpreter at the Office of Inclusivity and Change Disability Service at UCT. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Bertha, for having me.
Thank you for making time. So take us through the Sign Language website, how it aligns with the university's vision, which is 2030 vision, commitment to transformation.
Yes, well, this particular website, basically, it's access to South African Sign Language. So I basically recognized that there was a need for greater inclusivity and identified the importance of developing standardized introductory information or written information, because South African Sign Language doesn't have a written format. So I checked all the websites at UCT and I thought, no, there is a need for better inclusion and better accessibility. And this particular website, that is the National Benchmark Testing website, where prospective students are able to then apply and then have the test being conducted. So they make applications for this particular test. And it's accessible in Sasol now. And that was basically targeted for prospective students who would like to complete the MBT application and do the test in a comprehensive manner. So it does resonate with the Vision 2030 goal that offers transformation and social engagement. So it's basically for undergraduate or postgraduate education. And we really are trying to build a scholarship on transformation by enhancing prospective students' inclusion and accessibility, and enhancing the quality of teaching and learning, and enabling UCT faculties to become more deaf-friendly. But I must commend our Vice-Chancellor in terms of his foresight and supporting the leading work for UCT.
And tell us about the work of the UCT's Disability Service in the Office for Inclusivity and Change. And I know that you're also going to share your story.
Yes. So at Disability Service at UCT, we strive towards the creation of discrimination-free and inclusive environment. And so we want to encourage disabled students, to be fully independent. and also have effective participation within the mainstream university life. We strive to remove any physical, policy, information, and attitudinal barriers that might prevent disabled members of the UCT community from fulfilling their full potential. So whether it be improving building access or arranging extra time for during exams or employing South African Sign Language interpreters, we are there to assist with that process.
You were born to deaf parents, and you
Mm-hmm.
describe interpreting as your calling. And this is a quote
Yes.
now, open quote. The first time I saw a sign language interpreter was at a meeting my dad dragged me to. That is what you recall. What happened?
Yes, so I have a unique story. I grew up in a deaf hostel, so I was surrounded by deaf people and deaf adults until around the age of 11. My parents, who are Stephen and Suzanne Lombard, they were founders of a deaf organization that provides social service and capacitation to members of the deaf community. So basically, I was witnessed firsthand the barriers that the deaf community encounters. So being born into a deaf community and growing up in a deaf community, you know, I will never know what it's like to be deaf, but I definitely am able to say that I come from a community that has been marginalized. And when I was dragged into that meeting, I used to, growing up, I used to just interpret, here and there for my parents, whether it was ordering pizza for delivery or just doing basic community service work at church. But when I saw a professional South African Sign Language interpreter for the first time, I said, wow, I want to do that. That is something I really want to do because I understand that there's a need to bridge the gap between the deaf community and the hearing community. And information is such a commodity within the deaf community that I really wanted to be a conduit to that treasure source.
And we understand that UCT has begun South African Sign Language training for frontline staff in libraries. How do various institutions, society at large, make use of your work?
Okay, well, just to give you an example, I told myself at that time, that I really would like to become a sign language interpreter. And during that time, I recognized, okay, we can start establishing a accessible website in Sazzle, and then what others are capable of doing. When you talk about the Sazzle training for frontline staff members in libraries or at traffic or anywhere, we've partnered up with an NGO called the Deaf Community of Cape Town. So it's a part of our community engagement. And the deaf, they are actually deaf facilitators that provide Sazzle training. And we basically gave them that training because we recognized that they will most likely encounter and communicate with deaf students, staff members, or visitors. So just in terms of the accessible website, the initiative is aimed to transform UCT's communication practices and making information more accessible to South African deaf community members. And it really reflects, a forward-thinking approach. And our hope is not only just to be at the forefront around these kinds of initiatives, but we want to inspire other institutions and society at large to follow suit and to take up these kinds of initiatives, such as partnering with the local deaf organizations to learn South African Sign Language, or start making, your own websites accessible. In a language that not everyone has access to, like sign language, and taking the initiative and making your community more deaf-friendly. That's what we aspire to do.
And then
this.
And ultimately, just lastly, what would be ideal? What would you like to see is a perfect, ideal moment that everything has been implemented?
Well, creating a society that is open to having the deaf community participate, having a community whereby deaf people have access to information, they have access to the resources that they require. So for me, that's the ultimate goal, is to have a society where deafness is not just a thing where there's stigma around it, but they are part of the large community. And there are ways and means that we can go ahead and do to achieve that.
And then lastly, in terms of growth, I'm sure if someone is listening to you and I or watching you and I, where they maybe want to participate, where do they go? Who do they talk to?
So you can either approach your local deaf community, or you could approach Deaf Federation of South Africa and ask, to assist how you could perhaps volunteer or how you could go about things. So that's definitely an option as well. Just to give you a bit of background, most deaf people come from homes where parents and family members never attempted to learn sign language, and many deaf students within primary education experience within the classroom that they aren't fluent teachers. So just in terms of that particular community, there's lots of language deprivation, and and there's also marginalization that occurs. So we really, really want to create an atmosphere of redress and really create a community where we can say, okay, our vicinity or our company or our institution is deaf friendly, and we welcome them within our space.
That's Michelle de Bruyn, South African Sign Language Interpreter at the Office of Inclusivity and Change Disability Service at UCT, as well as Beryl Porter, who's also been assisting and doing sign language. She's a South African Sign Language Interpreter on Zoom. Thank you so very much for joining us and chatting to us on the show.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, and bye-bye for now. It's now time for news. It's 2.
Thank you, Bertha. On the top stories, a recommendation for an ad hoc committee into issues of state security, and 20 killed in crash at food distribution site in Gaza. For SAFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good day. The joint meeting of Parliament's Police and Justice and Constitutional Development Committees has decided to recommend an ad hoc committee as a means for the institution to look into issues of national security. This after the Speaker of the National Assembly, Thoko Didiza, instructed the two committees as well as the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence to consider on an urgent basis revelations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Provincial Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The committees must report back to the National Assembly next week, Wednesday. Co-chairperson of the joint meeting committee, Xola Nqola.
There is overwhelming view, Honorable Ghana, that we are going to the House on the 23rd to recommend that an ad hoc committee be established. There must be strict terms of reference. There must be a strict time frame that must also be adopted by this committee Tuesday next week.
Gauteng MEC for Human Settlements, Tasneem Motara, says the 6.6 billion rand budget allocated to her department for this financial year will be utilized to provide adequate housing, deliver inclusive development, and build integrated and sustainable human settlements across the province. This was announced this morning during a post-budget briefing in the Gauteng legislature in Johannesburg. Motara presented her budget vote to the legislature yesterday. The MEC says she will ensure that service delivery is ramped up.
Housing still remains a priority, apex priority, not only for this administration, but for government as a whole, in line with the Constitution, as well as the Freedom Charter commitments. We'll continue to address housing challenges notwithstanding the huge backlog and the huge demand we have in the province, but we will ensure that we do not lose any of the conditional grants as we did in the previous year, and in fact ramp up delivery so that we source additional funding.
A 6-year-old boy has been shot and killed in the Better Life informal settlement in Philippi East on the Cape Flats in a suspected house robbery. Police spokesperson Joseph Swartboy says a woman and teenager were wounded in the incident last night. He says when police arrived at the scene, the victims were already transported to a hospital.
The 6-year-old boy was declared deceased by the medical personnel at the hospital. The unknown suspects fled the scene and they are yet to be arrested. The motive for this attack is a possible house robbery. Philippi East police are investigating a murder and 2 counts of attempted murder.
Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis is expected to appear in the Bishop Levis Magistrates Court in September. This after an application for harassment was brought against him by a Cape Town resident. The applicant, who resides close to a relative of the mayor, alleges that law enforcement officers have been deployed to their home on numerous occasions without evidence of any wrongdoing. The NPA's Eric Ndabazalila says the matter was postponed in the Bishop Levis Magistrate Court for the mayor to appear in person.
We can confirm that there was an application that was going to be made today, but it did not sit properly as Magistrate Zansi took issue with the absence of the person against the application was made. It's an application for a harassment order. He has postponed the case to the 25th of September for the person against whom the application is made to be present in court.
The Israeli and US-backed organization that's taken over food distribution in Gaza says there's been a chaotic crash at one of their sites with 20 people killed. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says one person has been stabbed while others were trampled to death in what they called a dangerous surge at the center in Khan Yunis. The BBC's Imogen Falks reports.
There has been over some weeks criticism of the way GHF delivers aid, focused in small sites where crowds wait for hours and they're kind of herded into like pens while they wait. There have been many deaths around GHF sites, but according to GHF, not in them. This is the first one, they say, and they describe it as tragic. But as I said, they blame it on agitators in the crowd.
Recapping the top story, the joint meeting of Parliament's Police and Justice and Constitutional Development Committees has decided to recommend an ad hoc committee as a means for the institution to look into issues of national security. I'm Undalambana for SAFM News, headlines at 2:30.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
9-time African champions, the Super Falcons are chasing victory to graduate to the semi-finals. But the Copper Queens want to maintain their unbeaten rhythm. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch Nigeria versus Zambia this Friday, 18 July at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
It's fire, flavor, and fierce competition on the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2. The semi-finals heat up as the final three transform the humble braai into a gourmet three-course showstopper, with Chef Sean Scrooby turning up the pressure. Who will flame out and who will sear their place in the grand finale? The Tastemaster SA, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting 13th July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2, tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere, no subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Is it getting better? Or do you feel the same? Will it make it easier on you now? You got someone to blame. You say one love, one life, it's one need, and I one love, get to share it. Leaves you, darling, you don't care for it.
Disappoint you or leave a bad taste in your mouth. You act like you never had love, and you want me to go without. Well, it's too late tonight to drag the past down into the light.
That's you two featuring Mary J. Blige. Give me Bono anytime. I'm a happy girl. Coming up next, we're going to be speaking to Dr. Ashwil Ramon Phillips. But before we get there, in case you've just tuned in, it is the Full Circle. And the first hour, we spoke about men. Men are hurting. And it's time we talk about it. And the theme for this year, Men's Mental Wellness Day, set to stir national conversation at Constitution Hill, and they're focusing on men are hurting. And we spoke to Masakane representative Xolani XO. Made in South Africa. Let's go to the docks. And we spoke to Frankie Dutoy, broadcaster, executive producer, about the film, as well as talking to Michelle De Bruyn, South African Sign Language interpreter at the Office of Inclusivity and Change Disability Service at UCT, as well as having Beryl Botha, South African Sign Language interpreter, on Zoom. And we're speaking about the University of Cape Town breaking new ground with the first South African Sign Language accessible website in higher education. Now coming up, family relationships, psychology, devil worship, Muti and murder. An article by our guest examining what's behind the growth of occult gangs in South Africa.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
My name is Fikile Makama. I'm from Cape Town and I'm a defender. Between city life and village life, I will choose village life. I like being around people. I would like to say to my friends back home, they know where I come from. They've seen my struggles. So me being here is me representing them and my family. We are the champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connect.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
SAFM, in collaboration with the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, brings you the Jazz for Young People concert, happening at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July 2025. Tune in to Seasons and the Soundtrack of Your Life, broadcasting live. This unique event is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. Bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz from young musicians, curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring National School of the Arts Band, Willow Crescent Magnet School of Music Band, Biko's Manor, and many others. Have fun while doing good. Tickets are available at Quicket for just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
Gang-related crime in South Africa is widespread, but it goes unreported adequately, underreported outside hotspots such as the Cape Flats in Cape Town or Westbury in Johannesburg. In these areas, gangs are deeply rooted and contribute to ongoing violence, drug trafficking, territorial conflict. But gangs have continued to evolve. Now, this is a fact. And gang violence has consistently increased throughout South Africa, particularly in the gang, in Gauteng actually, and Free State provinces. Now, in the Free State, in the east central part of the country, devil worshipping, witchcraft-related gang practices have been reported, and this is according to our guest, who's going to help us understand what exactly is happening. That's Dr. Ashwil Ramon Phillips, lecturer, postgraduate supervisor, Department of Criminology, University of the Free State. Doc, good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
This is really scary. This is really frightening that we've come to this level of crime it seems like it has metamorphosized into something else. What inspired you to focus on the topic of devil worship and Muti murders within the context of occult gangs in SA?
When I initially started doing research, I actually started researching the numbers gangs in South African prisons. Then around 2011, I attended a gang workshop hosted in the Free State, and I think around about that time there was a big surge in gang-related activity in the province, and these gangs started coming to light, and then it immediately piqued my interest.
And is this a new phenomenon, or is it something that has always been there, and it's just becoming, being put in the spotlight now?
It's a bit of both, actually. I think from a South African police service perspective, they became aware of the existence of these groups around about the mid to late 1990s, more or less around 1997. And how these groups actually originated was with a evil church or a devil-worshipping group that practiced in parts of northern Africa. Now, this group later moved down to Lesotho in Maseru, which borders with the Free State province. They then started to merge, traditional beliefs in witchcraft with more Western notions of pseudo-Satanism and anti-Christianity. And that's actually what gave rise to what communities came to know as these devil-worshipping gangs.
And then in your article, you mention approximately 40 occult-related gangs in one province. Maybe if you could elaborate for us which province is and what factors contribute to the prevalence of such gangs in those particular areas?
Okay, the province in question is the Free State. So there are approximately 40 gangs, and that's just an estimate, that are active in the province. But in order to really contextualize it, you've got more dominant and bigger gangs like the 666 and the Born to Kill or BTK, the NB.
And it is so worrying that we've gone as far as using Muti. Like, what is that though? 2025. But anyway, let me just check if my guest is back. Doc, are you back? No, Doc is not yet back. So he did extensive research, and in 97, a South African Police Service investigation uncovered a so-called devil-worshipping group or evil church that migrated from parts of the Northern Africa. That's what he highlighted at the beginning of the conversation, and says that, since 2011, groups like this have expanded across the Free State. You can only imagine. 666, Born to Kill. So when you hear 666, you must... yeah, your eyeballs must pop. Born to Kill, Natural Born Killers, International Junior Portuguese, and Maroma or Romans or Romas. They even have names, and they don't even shy away from it. Doc, welcome back. Doc?
Yes, can you hear me?
Much better.
Okay.
Yes, we got intersected there for quite a bit. I don't know whether if you could go back to your trail of thoughts.
So basically what I was explaining is that there are an estimated 40 gangs that are active throughout the Free State province. Some of these gangs have now reportedly started to spread to other provinces like the Western Cape and the Northern Cape and the Eastern Cape and Gauteng. But to really contextualize it, you've got bigger, more dominant groups like the 666, BTK, NBK, IJP and Maromas. And from these, you've got a lot of smaller cluster or splinter gangs that have much less members. They are much less organized and structured. And I usually refer to them more as dabblers in the occult. So they may perform some of the rituals or incorporate and use some of the symbols related to the occult, but these guys don't really understand what the significance and the consequences of all of these rituals are and how they should be used and what they really mean. Whereas your bigger, more organized, more hardcore groups, occult philosophy and ideology is deeply embedded in their hierarchy and symbolism and practices. And, they use it for a variety of reasons, which range from gaining supernatural strength to the belief in their ability to astral project and shapeshift. They participate in spiritual gatherings. They use various forms of muti to evade arrest or make them more successful in the commission of their crime. And I mean, in Bloemfontein and Botshabelo, that 5,000 members belonging to mostly these bigger groups, 6 and BTK.
Whoa, those are big numbers. So let's look at the recruitment process maybe of these people. In your article, you really emphasize understanding what draws young people to these gangs. Maybe if we could highlight the key socio-criminogenic risk factors, number one, that contribute to their involvement to the cult, and also maybe the demographics, age, gender, who is more prone?
Okay, in terms of the criminogenic risk factors, remember that these are still criminal gangs. So the normal risk factors that apply to more traditional street gangs like those in Gauteng and the Western Cape would still apply here as well. And then you're looking at factors like individual factors such as having a weak identity development, substance abuse, lack of identity, and you also look at broader systemic or social factors, like, for instance, lack of a father figure or absent male role model within the household, unemployment, poverty, academic failure, deviant peer influence, community disorganization, and all those type of factors. But with regard to occult gangs in particular, a lot of the youths in my doctoral study communicated to me that they witnessed what members of these gangs could do in the supernatural, and they then craved these powers or abilities for themselves. So in other words, the pursuit of that supernatural power, that then becomes a risk factor in its own. A lot of them also communicated that gang activity and crime was so rife in the communities that it restricted their movement. So in other words, they couldn't walk around freely in the areas where they resided. They were unsafe at school, and a lot of them then just merely joined gangs for that sense of self-protection or self-preservation. And once within the gang and after being initiated, you then you become forced to participate in some of these rituals.
And then yes. Sorry for the interruption.
With regard to the demographics, the typical age range is between 12 and 24 years, but there are members as young as 8 years that have been reported to have joined these gangs. Most of these gangs, if not all, have a female wing or a female component with their own name, their own structure, their own hierarchy. So BTK, for example, would have the GNRs, or Girls Never Respect. IJP would have the IJG, the International Junior Girls. So females and males are involved. Initially, when it started, it was mostly African youth, but because schools and communities have become so integrated, it's now really it's very integrated as well. So you have youths from all ethnicities and races that are involved. It's no longer only an issue in rural areas, it's also now an issue in more urban areas, and it's also not anymore just an issue amongst impoverished youth. There are many youth that come from wealthier families that also become involved in these groups.
So how can community leaders play a role? Law enforcement agencies also improve their investigative techniques to make sure this is harnessed. And any recommendations as well from your side as someone who's done extensive research?
I think at this stage, creating awareness would be a good starting point, because as you mentioned in the beginning, Bloemfontein and the Free State as a whole is not a province that's particularly known for having gang-related issues, but it has been an issue, like I said, since 2011, and I think a lot more can be done to increase efforts, both by the police and by the community and civil society in general. Because remember, usually there's an expectation that policing gangs and reducing gang violence is a police problem. But a lot of the time we don't realize that police don't really have the resources needed to do that. So for instance, in provinces like the Western Cape and Gauteng, you'll have organized and structured anti-gang units within the police. That does not yet exist in the Free State. So that's definitely something to look into. But a multidisciplinary approach definitely needs to be taken. So it can't just be a problem for the police. We need to get the Department of Education involved, we need to get academics involved, we need to get social development involved, because in order to prevent and also to rehabilitate youths that are existing gang members, on one hand, you'd have to sort of compensate for all of the benefits that the gang provides, and that now includes material wealth, but also things like having status, feeling respected, having a sense of belonging. And on the other side of it, you'd also need to come up with mechanisms that would sort of coax youth that are deeply ingrained in these gangs to want to get out before it's too late. So usually that realization only comes after they've served a few years direct incarceration and undergone a series of rehabilitation programs. And that's where I say we must start with awareness. So we need to inform youths what's the consequences of becoming a gang member, where that path leads. And that needs to be done in schools, it needs to be done in communities, it needs to be done through the media. On the other side of it, we also need to educate people, and that now is educators, it is everyone working with children or in the immediate environment of children, on what these occult gangs are, how they work, why they exist, because there's a lot of fear around these gangs, and that fear also creates issues in terms of rehabilitation and prevention.
Dr. Ashwil Ramon Phillips, lecturer and postgraduate supervisor, Department of Criminology, University of the Free State. Thank you for making time and talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
And bye-bye for now. Devil worship, muti and murder. That's what we're talking about. It's now time for news. It's 2:30.
Thank you, Bertha. On the news headlines, City Power says businesses in and around Johannesburg owe over 60 billion rand. The electricity entity has urged customers and business owners to come forward and make payment arrangements. The joint meeting of Parliament's Police and Justice and Constitutional Development Committees has decided to recommend an ad hoc committee as a means for the institution to look into issues of national security. And the R71 road at Mahubas Kloof outside Zanini, Limpopo remains closed to traffic after gas cylinders being carried on a truck exploded after the vehicle lost control and veered off the road. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
SABC Education, in partnership with the Department of Health and Ilifa Labantwana, bring you episode 33 of the Side-by-Side drama Season 4. Focused on what to expect during routine clinic visits during pregnancy and what are emergencies to look out for.
Say and say. Side by side.
Singama Africa Kenya you Tina Singama Africa Kenya you Tina Singama Africa Kenya Tina.
Oh, Nkosi yami, Ola has been God sent. I can't even imagine what could have happened if he hadn't arrived when he did. And Lupumzo, having you here, it means everything.
We're all here for each other now, and that's all that matters, okay? You know, Mama, when Siyabonga was banging on the door, I've never been so scared in my life. What's that, Ma?
No, baby. It's only Ukola. He's fixing the door. Imange, all right?
I'm fine, Mama.
My goodness. Why is this happening to us? What have we done to deserve this? Oh, Mtwanam.
He was at the door. He sounded so angry. He was saying all of these things about me, Mama, about us. What if he... I can't breathe.
Imange. Imange, look at me. Breathe. Slowly, okay? Tola! Tola, we need to go to the clinic now!
Joyce. I heard the police are searching for Siabong. He is now a fugitive. And the extra charges for what he did yesterday, he's going to face serious time in prison once he's caught and sentenced.
Yo, Sakumzi, it's just so heartbreaking.
Why do men resort to such violence against women and children? Is it because of our violent past? Our history of oppression? Is that why it's like this?
I really wish I had the answers. The context might have influenced our society, but really, at some point, we have to take some personal responsibility.
Yes, maybe it's better we don't bring a child into this cruel world.
Really? Does that mean you're letting go of this entire idea of yours?
Yeah, but why? Were you thinking differently?
Well, I was kind of considering that maybe we should try for a child.
Really? Are you sure, Joyce?
Well, I was until you changed your mind.
I can go back. Joyce, for you, I can do anything.
Sakumzi, the only thing that matters the most out of this whole thing is that you and we have each other.
Yeah, always and forever. I love you, Joyce.
I love you too.
The doctor says you'll be fine, Imange. It was a panic attack. You are still 3 months pregnant and in good health.
Thank you so much, Nurse Piliswa. That's good to hear.
Yeah, it was wise for you to bring her immediately, Pamela.
I was so scared for her and the pregnancy. Thank you so much, Nurse Piliswa.
I read about some pregnancy emergencies that we should watch out for. Could you remind us what they are, please, Nurse Piliswa?
Of course. One must be vigilant. There are a couple of signs, like if the mother is unusually tired, pale, or experience unusual swelling of legs, arms, or face, especially swollen reddish calf muscles. She should visit the clinic.
There are so many dangers to look out for.
Yeah. So seek immediate medical help for any of these symptoms, like excessive vaginal bleeding. Yeah. Reduced or no baby movements at all.
No baby movements?
Yeah. Headaches, dizziness, severe abdominal pain. Yeah. High temperature, convulsions.
Convulsions?
Yeah, convulsions. Very serious. Difficulty breathing. Preterm rupture of main brain. And early painful contractions are also important to watch out for.
Okay, and Ness, what about Mom Connect? Is that still a thing? It's an app that I used when I was pregnant with Dumisani.
Yeah, well, Lupumzo, then you should tell Imange and Upamela about it.
Okay, so Mom Connect is a fantastic resource. It's an app that I used when I was pregnant with Dumisan. Okay, so it reminds you of clinic visits. It gives you a platform to ask questions. Best part, it's free.
Yeah.
Thanks to the Department of Health, all healthcare for pregnant moms or children under 6, it's free. It's an amazing app, really.
That is a great relief to hear. We'll sign up for Mom Connect, then you'll download it for us, right?
Oh, of course, let's go right now.
Hey, remember, we are here to support you throughout this journey. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any concerns.
Please.
Thank you so much, Ness Philizwa and Lupums.
Singama Africa, Kenya, you. Tina. Singama Africa, Kenya, you. Tina. Singama Africa, Kenya, you.
Join us again tomorrow at 2:30 to further discuss what to expect from routine clinic visits during pregnancy and what emergencies you should look out for right here on SAFM.
Side by side.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
What is your take on what was said?
I support Dr. Letabe wholeheartedly. And very funny today, or let me put it this way, everybody who gets their salary from the fiscus, that means from the public service, they are entitled to subsidies on their medical aid to use private hospitals. And that subsidy is 70 billion rand, starting with the president. If there's a policy that they must all use public hospitals, that 70 billion will immediately accrue to the public hospitals and will be able to improve them. If I can tell you what I can do with 70 billion rand, you'll understand exactly why I'm agreeing.
Minister Aaron Matsoleli.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Well, we're back and taking a look at the Nelson Mandela Day, which is upon us. The stage belongs to the children of Nkosi's Haven. Arts Inside Out is an inspiring collaboration of acclaimed American, African artists, educators, Broadway professionals, and Nkosi's Haven, who together have produced 222, I'll get to clarify that. The show, a heartfelt original production created and performed by the young residents themselves. That will be Thursday, 17 July, 3 p.m. Ramlao McKenna Theatre at Market Theatre Square. We're going to be speaking to Dick Scarlin, Tommy-nominated writer and director. And we're talking about Nkosi's Haven, which is a non-profit organization with the primary function of providing long-term residential care to destitute HIV and AIDS-affected mothers, their children, and AIDS orphans. This Mandela Month, they are raising awareness about their work through the Arts Inside Out events.
Champions need motivation above and beyond winning. South Africa, show your love and support for the WAFCON defending champions by Yana. Witness the Capital Total Energy's Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
9-time African champions, the Super Falcons are chasing victory to graduate to the semi-finals. But the Copper Queens want to maintain their unbeaten rhythm. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch Nigeria versus Zambia this Friday, 18 July at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
And we just have to divert a little bit. Dick Scanlon, Tony-nominated Right-Hand Director. We're going to speak to him, but he's still a little bit occupied at the moment in class. So we'll hopefully before the show ends, we'll be able to squeeze him in. But in the meantime, still on hashtag Mandela Month, the Castle of Good Hope is preparing for its Mandela Day program in the Western Cape with the theme, "It is still in our hands to combat poverty and inequality." And I'll be speaking to Calvin Gilfillan, CEO, Castle Control Board. So this year, the Castle partnered with NGOs, activists, stakeholders to commemorate the significant date in South Africa's history. And this is going to stand, I don't know, it's going to be for a long time. This is really, really historical. And they started the month with their program, but I think let's just hear it from the CEO's perspective, what exactly they're doing, what has been their plan, and how they came up with the theme. Calvin, good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Bertha, and it's wonderful to speak to you and your audience again on this beautiful, what I call in-between Cape Town weather. You know, you see the clouds, but you also see the sun. But it is a good sign for Mandela Day on Friday. Thank you for the introduction, and thanks for inviting me back.
You are welcome. I'm just going to brag. In Gauteng, the sun is out, full blast.
Okay, you must beat us. You must beat us in something. Okay. No. This year's Mandela Day, I'm very excited about this year because last year was a bit of a gloom and doom. Because I don't know if you're aware, we had the informal settlement just outside of the castle in the whole media furore, and like emphasizing and highlighting the fact that none of our work, whether it's media, government work, can be divorced from the socio-economic milieu in which we live. High unemployment rates, inequality, etc. So for me, that's almost the canvas of this Mandela's Day, this year's Mandela Day. And the fact that we can go back to the spot where the law enforcement has removed the informal settlers and then work with them and other partners and other NGOs to rebuild that area into a space that's healing, a space that's giving back, a space of reflection, and you know, it's just basically regaining our humanity, because that's so important. If we look at what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening on our own African continent. So for me, the relevance of this Mandela Day is even more so than when it started in 2009.
And why did you specifically choose this theme? It is still in our hands to combat poverty and inequality. One would think after 30 years of democracy, things have changed.
Yeah, and that's why we just grabbed that theme again, because Mandela and his spirit and his legacy tells us that if your neighbor is unemployed, if your neighbor is cold, if your neighbor is hungry, if your neighbor is unhappy, how can you be happy? But then people become overwhelmed because they say, we can't help this one. You know, we can't help everyone. But Madiba taught us that it's in your hands, and it's in Bertha's hands, in Calvin's hands, in the homeless person's hands, to still make a difference in the life of somebody less fortunate than you. So even if you are in the lowest of the doldrums, unemployed, hopeless, you can still do something to improve the lot of others. And I agree with you, 31 years into this democracy where we promise people houses, where we promise people jobs, where we promise people prosperity. It is sad to still now today talk about this, but we must never stop. We must still maintain our hope that if we do this little bit that we inherited, or that the talents that we have, and we pass it on to somebody else to make their life better, then it is what we can do.
So what activities can we expect this year?
Oh, a lot. it's too much to speak. But I've spoken about the outside. So on the outside, we will engage some of the homeless, individuals still walking around there, and we will clean the space so that it's not a once-off, but that people take responsibility for not only for their own backyard, but also for the backyard of the country as a whole. So we'll start there. We've hired a cherry picker, and we will take off the aliens that's grown into the castle and explain to people the environmental lesson out of that. Here we have a 350-year-old building, and if we look after that in a symbolic way, we will also improve our lives around it. Then we move inside the castle where we will, with the commission, one of our museums that I've spoken about in a previous version, where we will have young kids and teach them how to do robotics and, AI, artificial intelligence, and all of these new schooling and education that people do. We will have a demonstration of that inside. Then we will also have buskers, people who are artists, but they don't have a platform. They will use the day to contribute and to give some flair to the day, so that it's not all about, not all about giving back, but also, entertainment and enjoyment, so that the day is a serious day, but it's a day where the givers and the takers can enjoy in mutual humanity.
So in contributing to practical solutions, maybe I should ask, the areas that Castle of Good Hope will really be zoning into to alleviate the problems that we have. I know most probably, education is part of it. Are there any other aspects?
What we also do, these unemployed youth who are the buskers, who are the artists, will also be offered opportunity to sell some of their wares, not only on that day, but on other days also. So in that way, we give them a market. I mean, we can't give everybody employment, but I'm saying, I have an asset, a government asset. And what I can do is to invite them in and give them a platform to sell their wares, and so put a little bread in there in that family, etc. So I, as a builder's son, I'm always looking at the practical stuff. On the outside, we will ask the people to help us to clean the spot, and to give them a reward. Of course, we can't just give money willy-nilly, but we will offer them a hearty meal, for contributing to that. We didn't tell them that, but we will give it to them. So I'm always looking at how can we make that small, but as you say, practical difference. And if we take this and multiply it by 1 million, that more senior state officials like me also do that in their communities, we will chip into this, hopelessness and the despair that is besetting our communities.
And for more information, where should our listeners go to if they want to participate, come and help, or maybe even just to donate?
Yeah, obviously not my cell phone number, but www.castleofgoodhope, which is one word, .co.za. There they can come and offer their just the spirit of volunteerism. I think we need that back in South Africa. For me, that's one of the biggest things that we've lost since the late days of the anti-apartheid struggle, but the early days of our democracy when Madiba, Tambo, Slovo, when they were all alive. Now it's so self-centered and narcissistic, and I take what I can, that we need that spirit of volunteerism, serving and be served in a respectful and in a balanced way.
Calvin Gilfillan. My tongue is getting a little...
You are so perfect. You say my surname perfect. It's like music in my ears. Thank you, Bertha Charuma.
Thank you so much. Thank you for making time, and you have yourself a pleasant one.
Thank you. The same to you. Bye.
And bye-bye for now. That's CEO Castle Control Board talking about the Mandela Month and what they're going to do. And this year, their focus is basically they have a theme. It is still in our hands to combat poverty and inequality. And Dick Scandon is on standby. Tony-nominated writer and director will be talking about Nkosi's Haven, how they have partnered together and what they are preparing for this Mandela Month when we come back.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Nkosi's Haven is a non-profit organization with their primary function of providing long-term residential care to destitute, HIV/AIDS affected moms and children and AIDS orphans. And this Mandela Month, they are raising awareness about their work through the Arts Inside Out event. And on the line, I do have Dick Scandon. Good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you for making time. So, Nkosi's Haven opened its doors way back in 99. Maybe if you could just take us back to its mission, how the work has evolved over the years?
Well, Nkosi's Haven came about because when Nkosi Johnson was still alive, but was quite ill, he commented to his adopted mother, Gail Johnson, how sad it was that when his birth mother was dying, when he was 2.5, they had been separated, because in those days it was not uncommon for mothers to be separated from their children when they were sick with AIDS. So Gail said to Nkosi, let's do something about that. And they started a home where mothers would come when they had HIV with their children. And the idea originally was that the mothers would stay there through the phases of their illness until eventually they passed, because of course at that time there was no medication to make AIDS manageable instead of terminal. Then Nkosi's Haven would take care of their children after the mothers had passed. Happily, now 20 some odd years ago, we got ARVs. So the mothers live, and we have families there. We've got mothers with HIV/AIDS. We've got their children, some of whom have HIV/AIDS, some of whom do not. We've got other children with HIV/AIDS and other children who are orphaned or abandoned because of the virus. And then a few years ago, we opened our doors as well to families who are victims of gender-based violence. So it's a big community of about 35 moms and roughly 100 children living there. Children are ages 4 months to 24.
And over the years, Nkosi's Haven's organization has faced challenges in staying open, and yet the need for your work remains. What type of support do you hope to receive to keep the mission going?
Well, look, all over the world, support for HIV-related causes is very much on the wane, because people perceive HIV/AIDS as no longer the emergency it once was, because people now live because of ARVs. The problem is those people who are living need to eat 3 meals a day, and if they're children, they need to go to school, and they need proper medical care and all sorts of things, all the things that all of us need. I'm a person with HIV/AIDS, so I really feel this very keenly. So the support we're hoping to get from our work, Arts Inside Out, which is an American NGO, is really to bring attention to the extraordinary community that is Nkosi's Haven, and to encourage folks to support that community. Our American NGO, Arts Inside Out, is very well funded and resourced. So we really don't need to spread words about ourselves. We're really looking to show all of Johannesburg, to remind all of Johannesburg how absolutely singular, charismatic, and dazzling this community is, created by Gail and Nkosi Johnson. And it's still thriving.
And, the partnership between Arts Inside Out and Nkosi's Haven's organization has been, of course, something that really has made it keep afloat. If we were to take a look at the key elements that make this partnership so successful and enduring, what are they?
There's three I would list. Number one, the extraordinary moms and kids at Nkosi's Haven. I mean, it's just the most extraordinary community of really fun, exciting, smart, loving, community-oriented people. Beyond that, I think the fact that we staff our teaching team, which is about 23 teachers, with both American and African artists, there's a feeling of cultural exchange in the work that I think excites the teaching artists, but also really excites the moms and kids. And the third thing is that many of the teachers, myself included, come back every year. This is my 15th year. So we have really, really long histories and deep relationships with the community. The kids who are 17 this year, I held in my arms when they were 2 years old. I've literally spent a month a year with them their entire lives. So we have these very established relationships, and that makes the work very deep. And it means that the day we start, every buy-in is 100%. We don't have to go through a process of getting everyone excited and invested. They're ready for the work from the day we start, so we can go deep and have fun.
And take us through the show.
Well, the show is a devised show based on a theme every year. This year, the theme is clock. So we're looking at time, the passage of time, making the most of your time, looking back in time, looking forward in time. Who do you want to be? What are your dreams? And it's comprised of work that has been created in classrooms from the younger kids who do a dance, and they also do some storytelling, Then the teens, who have a variety of classes that they participate in, a video class, so there's some videos. There's a very intense dance class, so we have wonderful dances, a wonderful music class. I teach the teen story class, so that's a dozen teens who've written short stories about their lives that they perform in a very funny and moving way. We also have visual arts and stage management and stagecraft, because we do the show at the Market Theatre Lab. So our stagecraft students design and build the set, and then they design the lights. So they're learning all sorts of wonderful life skills in this process. And then the moms also have classes. So the moms do sort of a multi-genre presentation that includes music, movement, and storytelling. And we have one group of moms under 40 and one group of moms over 40, and they have very different stories to tell.
That's Dick Scanlon, Tony-nominated writer and director. Thank you so much for making time, and all the very best. And we're talking about the show that's going to be taking place, heartfelt original production created and performed by young residents themselves. This will be Thursday, 17 July at 3 p.m. Ramolao Makene Theatre at Market Theatre Square. So that wraps up today's show. Thank you to my content producers as well as my technical producer. And the pulse. We have to check the pulse. The nation. Does it still have a pulse? Well, Ashraf will be unpacking as from 3 onwards. But otherwise, from myself and the team, it's been fantastic. Have a good one.
Thank you, Bertha and the team. On the top stories, businesses around Johannesburg owe billions for electricity, and monks in Thailand caught up in a sex scandal. For SAFM News, I am Onde Lambana, and a very good afternoon. City Power says businesses in and around Johannesburg owe over 60 billion rand. The electricity entity has urged customers and business owners to come forward and make payment arrangements. City Power spokesperson Isaac Mangena says they embarked on a revenue collection drive in Braamfontein today and disconnected defaulting businesses and residential complexes.
As the city, we are sitting at about 64 billion rands that is basically owed across the city of Johannesburg. And it is a really worrying phenomenon, because the expectation is that the businesses would have profit that they're making, and they should be able to pay for the services that they are using.
The joint meeting of Parliament's Police and Justice Constitutional Development Committees has decided to recommend an ad hoc committee as a means for the institution to look into issues of national security. This after the Speaker of the National Assembly, Togo Didiza, instructed the two committees as well as the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence to consider on an urgent basis revelations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Provincial Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The committees must report back to the National Assembly next week Wednesday. Co-chairperson of the Joint Meeting Committee, Ola Ngola.
There is overwhelming view, Honorable Ghana, that we are going to the House on the 23rd to recommend that an ad hoc committee be established. There must be strict terms of reference. There must be a strict time frame that must also be adopted by this committee Tuesday next week.
Gauteng parents have 8 days to get their children's school documents in order as the online application process for grades 1 and 8 opens next week Thursday and closes on the 29th of August. The DA in the province says it hopes the department prepared sufficiently to avoid recurring problems experienced in previous years. Gauteng DA Shadow MEC for Education Sergio Isa dos Santos say parents grappled with system glitches, insufficient support, in particular limited internet access.
We have submitted written questions requesting clarity on the locations of the 81 decentralized walk-in centres, but to date we have not received any response from the department, nor have we seen any visible communication or advertising by the department to inform parents where these walk-in centres are located. This lack of transparency really undermines parents' ability to access much-needed support. As the Democratic Alliance, we believe it is critical for the department to address these concerns.
The R71 road at Magobalskloof outside Tzaneen in Limpopo remains closed to traffic after gas cylinders being carried on a truck exploded after the vehicle lost control and veered off the road. The explosion also caused a runaway felt fire. The driver escaped with minor injuries. Firefighter India Ramalibe says the explosion was massive.
We are firefighters. We came here last night after the accident. There's a serious field fire. We couldn't reach the accident scene last night because the road was closed. I only managed to reach the scene this morning. I have never seen such a serious accident in my life. It's bad.
The Thai king has revoked appointments and awards for 81 Buddhist monks as part of a widening sex scandal. A woman is accused of having sex with a number of monks, then blackmailing them after. The scandal is the latest to rock Thailand's much-revered Buddhist institution, which in recent years has been plagued with allegations of monks engaging in sex offences and drug trafficking. The BBC's Mickey Bristow has the details.
When they raided the 35-year-old's home, police found 80,000 compromising photos and videos. They were apparently used to extort money from a group of monks who'd had sex with her. She's believed to have received nearly $12 million. But the King's notice said the scandal had caused emotional and spiritual distress to the Buddhist faithful in Thailand.
Recapping the top story, City Power says businesses in and around Johannesburg owe over 60 billion rand. The electricity entity has urged customers and business owners to come forward and make payment arrangements. I'm Ondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 3:30.
It's a very good afternoon to you. In the National Pulse sporting headlines, it's cricket action live underway as the Proteas are chasing down the Black Caps in Harare. They need 139 runs to beat New Zealand in this T20 Tri-Series. And we also bring you the likes of golfing news, and it's South